When news came out that the NFLPA was going to file a collusion lawsuit against the NFL, tell about the call you got from the commissioner.
Roger is a tremendous leader. He and I have a good working relationship. Early on, we made it clear to each other. I never talk about our conversations with him to the public. As far as I know, he doesn't talk about any conversations I have with him publicly.
Right.
I think we always have to be in a position where we respect the job that each of us have. You know, people can report on anything they want. I know people are always interested in this, how is your relationship, and these soft questions of how do you feel about each other.
Hold on. I mean, you can understand it though, because you were the two men leading the most popular and powerful sport in the country. I guess what was reported was that when he called you, he wanted the suit not to be filed or to be dropped, and you asked if there could be certain concessions that the owners would make as part of the upcoming labor talks between the NFL and the NFLPA, and he said, give me 30 days to look into it. He got back to you and said the owners were going to be unable to do so. To what extent was the request made really for the concessions, or was it more for getting an understanding of the level of influence that he has with the owners?
It could be either.
Okay.
That's about as good as you're going to
do. You can't blame me for trying.
No, it's fair.
The other question, as it relates to the commissioner, how strongly do you feel that that position has too much power?
It seems to me that any situation where either side believes that they have to insist on a winner-take-all or a zero-sum position. Look, whether it's talking about football or talking about both houses of the large white building up the street, nothing can truly get done in a growth-oriented, positive-oriented, mutually beneficial way if you spend more time fighting each other than you do trying to come up with collective wins for everyone. It just doesn't work. And frankly, I don't believe that it helps our game, and I don't believe it grows our game if our players don't trust the commissioner.
You don't feel the players trust the commissioner?
I don't believe it's good if our players don't trust him. I don't. I think our players should think that this is a mutual endeavor to play the best game in the world at the highest level in the world. And if we end up in a world where our players and their families and our former players and our players to come don't trust and don't believe that both sides are working towards that goal, I know that that's bad for our game and for our business. At the same time, if you can't get there on the collective side, I do believe that it's important that either side has the ability to fight for their constituency. People are very quick and willing to say things like labor peace, or we're at a point where there is peace and harmony. The reality of any one of those things is peace and harmony sometimes depends on where you're standing looking at that peace and at that harmony. Historically, if you're in a world where there is a subjected class and that class doesn't have rights, doesn't have the ability to vote for their interest, doesn't have an ability to have people who can represent their interest, from the perspective of the people who are in power, I am sure that looked like peace. From the perspective of the oppressed, where you've got to go to a poll and take a poll test to see if you can have the right to vote, or whether you're going to go and cast a vote and be intimidated from being at the polls, or if you look up and your representatives are people who don't look like you, who don't ask your opinion, and certainly don't make decisions that are in your best interest, from the perspective of that person, I doubt that they would consider that to be peaceful or harmonious. Sometimes there are those times where we have to fight, and if two sides are equally strong, what happens? There's sometimes a momentous conflict, but that doesn't mean that that's all you care about. It does mean that without the ability to reach a consensus, that you do have the ability to fight for what's right.
I mean, if the position is that the control or power of the commissioner should be lessened some, what's the incentive for the NFL to do so when it's been one way for so long and always worked out seemingly quite well for them?
You know, you can go back, in my short lifetime, and see quotes from NFL owners who said that free agency was going to destroy football. When Ed Garvey and Gene Upshaw after him said that that there should be limitations on the workday, that players should only be subjected to a certain number of hours on the field, that that NFL players should be entitled to fair medical care. You actually had owners in the National Football League say that that would impose anarchy, that it would ruin the sport as we know it, and that none of this was good for the quote-unquote game of football. Those were actual words out of actual people's mouths. And you know what? I actually believe that they believed it. They believed that changes that would make the game better for the players, they believed that it would ruin the sport as they know it.